Hello!
I'm gonna mute you for now.
It's a really cool boat. I like this boat a lot. A little bit of heaven. This is a surprise boat. This is really kind of cool, finding out what's under this wrapping. Hi there, this is Captain Q. Join us as we travel hither and yon to show you some great deals on some really interesting boats and maybe learn just a little bit with each one. Hey, hey Randy.
Hey there.
How are you, buddy?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing just great, as usual. Once again, we meet up in a boatyard of all places.
And in Maine.
And in Maine. And not only just Maine, we are in Freeport, the capital of good shopping here. The home of 24/7 LL Bean. We're here today to take a look at a little surprise boat. And right behind me, there's a beautiful white hull here, 50 some odd years old. But another one of the 50-year-old beauties. We don't even know what it is because if you notice, it's all wrapped up as a present. It's just one big white present. It's a surprise. Well, this is part of being a yacht hunter. You have to understand that on some days, it's not always easy just to walk down to a dock and climb onto a boat with the sun. Sometimes you really have to work a little bit, especially if it's worth working for. This boat has been shrink wrapped. That means a whole sheet, a giant sheet of plastic or two or three has been spread over the entire length of the boat. I want to talk about this hull that we're looking at. What you see here is an incredibly gorgeous paint job, the blue boot top that is impeccably done, and then her bottom paint here, which is chalking up a little bit, and it's been sort of self-ablating, as they say, just in the open air with rain, and you can see rain that's run down and left streaks on the boat. None of that is a big problem. What we do see, though, is a number of layers are something that might tell you that, gee, someday it'd be nice to smooth this bottom right out. It's not a deal-breaker bottom, it's just the boat will sail better. We have a full-length keel. There is no centerboard in this boat. It's a full keel with an attached rudder. And this was done in the early, let's see, they came up with this one in 1962. Pretty early period in the cruising class of America rules, with nice handsome overhangs from the counter to the bow.
This must be one of the earliest fiberglass builds.
It's right up there. This is a Pearson Vanguard, 33-foot boat. It was designed by Phil Rhodes, a very well-known famous American yacht designer. Some like to complain that it's a little tricky backing these boats up. The only trick to backing up a boat like this is to practice. Brand new prop on it, I would say. With an appropriate zinc fitting here. The rudder is mahogany. She's been sitting out here in weathering, and she's opened up in the seams. It's like a 3 or 4 piece section here. But I don't think I'd want to trust it very long, and it would be worthwhile spending money to fabricate a new rudder.
Could you just glass over this?
I would leave that up to the boat yard. Right now, this prop is great. And
what's this piece right here?
This piece right here they put on, there's one on each side. Does two things. When the rudder is hard over, it's going to come up against this, so it will stop it from going any further. It's like a build and stop. It also is there to help prevent any aeration taking place, but it's an interesting piece. I've never seen anything like it on another boat. We're going to climb through a little portal up there, and anytime you go into a boatyard to look at a boat like this, I have added my own safety lines on both sides to keep this ladder from moving around on me. All right, Randy, you made it up that ladder. Whew. It's
That was a little tricky.
A little tricky getting on board here. Wow, it's worth it. This is really kind of cool, finding out what's under this wrapping. Christmas morning, we unwrap it. What's there? This. She's heavy hand-laid fiberglass. Her decks are all fiberglass, cored with balsa, which was big back then to help save weight. And they also, the stanchions, all this area here is got solid glass under it, so there's no balsa cord. The balsa cord probably starts here and so forth. One thing you might notice too, the word wet written on this deck, and another word wet back here. The owner at some point had the boat surveyed and asked the yard owner here to take a look at it and see what he thinks about it. So he came on board with his moisture meter. And the moisture meter has 2 steel pointed prods, and you stick it down into the glass or wood, and it will give you a reading of the percentage of water. This had a wet spot here, and there was a wet spot here. This feels solid as a rock to me right now. but underneath it possibly you could have some wet balsa.
Eventually, would you have to strip the top layer off and then replace it?
Right now, I'll go sailing with that wet spot any day of the week, right there. I'm not going to sink or kill myself or fall through the deck. This is a nice Harken Traveler with new Dacron trim lines. This is to help adjust the mainsail, the main boom, as it travels across the boat from tack to tack. It will help you adjust the trim of the sail. You got a nice raised deck here, a nice sunken cockpit, really nice combing to it.
So if you bought this, you'd probably strip the combing down because we see a little varnish roughness.
If I bought this boat, like a number of the boats that we've seen, my first approach would put it in the water, rig the sails, and go for a sail. But right away, no, there's nothing here that's bothersome. The wood has gotten wet and been varnished over and probably not properly sanded. We've got the engine kills lever right here. You pull that up and it stops the engine.
What is this lid here?
That actually is a lid that pops off and gives you access to a hand bilge pump. We have a tiller here, but if I was the helmsman, with the boats with the long overhangs forward and aft, you want to keep weight out of the ends, as they say. So this helps being sitting here as opposed to sitting aft in this cockpit.
The only downside is the cockpit ergonomics, right?
Well, yes and no. Something you get used to. This helm will probably be up like so, and usually there's a little adjustment screw that will hold it up there for you, and that frees up your knees. People will have to move their legs. It's not a big deal. It's not a big problem. Yes, a wheel does clear up the cockpit, and it's neater, and you can always add one at some point down the line. Tons of storage. It's also quite clean and clear back in there on this particular boat. And if you notice, the perforated board there will pop out of the way and give you good access to the port side of the engine. This is probably one of the first things I do is get a little strip of rubber and glue it down to the lip here so that when this closes, it would be really tight with a rubber gasket. And these two brackets, a big bronze bracket with a compass in it, drop right into these two pins, just like so, and the compass will be right there for the helmsman. This is another one of those slightly offset companionways that has a sink right beside it, so there's always a possibility you could end up with a foot in the sink. It's a simple, tight companionway, and your foot's not going to slide one way or the other, so I like that. Question is, can you name this thing?
It's for a hanging potted plant.
No, I'm not going to put a plant in here. It's one of the greatest little inventions. I just buy the boat for this. This is called a sea swing. And it goes in this pin here, goes in a little gudgeon over here, and has a little locking screw, and it sits just like so. You cook your meals in that, in the middle of the ocean, in a dark night when it's rolling, tossing, and turning. You put your pan in there, and you put a can of sterno, nice kettle of water, some coffee, some soup in the middle of the night.
I never had soup on your boat.
Well, you did, but it didn't stay there long. But the sea swings, you can't find them, and it's a great device. This stove is not gimbal. This is just something you're going to take out and do some cooking while you're sitting in port. There's a nice big, deep, dry, clean locker down there. Good pot and pan storage. And, oh, there we go, more pots and pans. This boat comes complete. The ice chest. Now, this has got a really nice thick, it's about, 3 inches worth of insulation here. There's a drain hole out the back of it to drain errant water and melted ice. A piece of plexiglass to put over that and turn that into my navigation table because you can put a pretty big chart on there. Whoa, look at this. Look at this. Catch an eyeball of that.
Wow. Brand new.
I'll buy this just for the engine and that sea swing. Look at that. There's a beautiful, brandy new, practically, Westerbeek. This is all freshly taken care of. That's a wonderful engine room. You've got twin fuel filters back here, Raycors. How easy is that to change and check? And for anything you can't get to from there, we have one more spot here to check your belts. And, ooh, tight as a drum. That's beautiful. And the stuffing box, I think we can get to from there.
What's the stuffing box?
I thought you'd never ask. It's a tube, and the shaft goes through the tube. And around that shaft and put into the tube is some cotton batting. It's a very thick, compressed cotton. That goes in, wraps around the shaft, and then a nut goes down over the shaft, and you tighten that up against the cotton batting, and it compresses that all in around the shaft so that the shaft can turn and no water will leak in between the stuffing box and the shaft. You might want a slight drip to come through there. It would tell you that the cotton is staying moist.
A little lubricant then, huh?
Water acts
Yeah,
as a lubricant,
yeah.
yes, exactly. We have lots of things down here. Lots of things. It's a really cool boat. I like this boat a lot. We've got a nice Furuno radar unit here on an arm that would swing out and be totally accessible to the helmsman, who's right here. This is an old boat, but she's got a lot of sort of little things that just pop up that say, whew, he's been taking care of it. We've got a big pilot berth on this side, and then we've got a big berth on this side. Also, what's here is a what we call a pike berth. Yeah, I'll be up that. There we go. Now, we now have two berths on this side, and trust me, these pike berths are really very comfortable. These upper berths are enormous. They're just really big on both sides once they're done. Another giant berth. And underneath this berth, look what we have here. Storage. Dry, clean storage. Woo! The Captain Q measuring stick. And you can even put a bag in there with it. That is really great. I mean, seriously great. Popping the bilge cover here. And here's a fresh water tank. This is the stainless water tank. And you've got a bilge pump down there. And this is just an old bilge. And you could scrub this puppy up and it would look fine. Right now, it looks serviceable. Even the little wires and so forth look usable. It looks like all the electronics just might work if you put the battery on board and go to town. What do you think this is?
To hold up the boom.
No.
No.
No. This is a spreader. Sticks out this way from the mast, and it will support your shrouds. Now, what do you eat when you're in a boat like this? Well, they give you a table, and let's see how this is done right here. There's two sliders on a track. So now we have a nice little dining table. We can seat 4 people in here. Really more for when you're in the harbor. Here we go forward. A very basic wash basin here that will pop up. There's a relatively new flush. It's got fresh hoses on it. Really just the basics. And there's a door I can close and have my privacy. You can see me? No! Behind this door, you're going to find a hanging locker and some storage bins. This is a nice forward cabin on a 33-footer. Got to remember the size. The size is what they've done for space in here. All the cushions and everything are in nice shape. They've all been redone in recent years. And you know what, Randy?
What's that?
There could be room for a little fireplace right on that bulkhead right there.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'd run that pipe right, set it right here.
Yep.
And then run that pipe right up through here. Very nice boat, nice rig for a 33-footer, 50 years old. They don't build them like this anymore. Randy, did you enjoy your Christmas present today?
Yeah, thanks for wrapping it like that.
Yes, I wrapped that puppy just beautifully. That was a Pearson Vanguard, and it was born in 1964. That was a delightful surprise. The boot top and the top sides just shone like new. The bottom needed some work, nothing in a deal breaker way. And then once we got up and dropped down through the zippered opening on the shrink wrap, we dropped down. There was a sort of wonderful glow inside inside this package of a boat. Some of the varnish work on board needed to be touched up and worked on, but a few weekends you would have it looking like a Hinckley. We did find something new we hadn't seen before, and that was this had a tiller on board, an old-fashioned way of sailing a boat. And when you've got Phil Rhodes' pen drawing the lines, you know it's going to be a good sound sea boat and one you'd be happy going offshore with. The head was a little iffy, but there was a flush and there was also a sink, but it worked. A lot to be said for the boat, pretty as can be. We give this boat a 10 because number one, she floats, and on top of that, I'm going to give it a 3.5 to a 4. I might even squeeze a 4 out of it because I liked it that much. There's a like factor in there, plus I would like to sail this boat and take off for a week and cruise the coast of Maine. And I'll tell you, a Rhodes design, somebody might very easily consider crossing the ocean with it. She's a good, heavy, sea-going boat with a nice motion to it. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when the next one comes out, please hit the alert bell. And that's not desperate at all. We're having too good a time of doing these things. So you can hit the bell or not.